In the previous video, we talked about how to normalize a database, and we learned about what are the different keys. So we talked about primary keys, foreign keys, and unique keys. In this video now, we're going to learn how to actually work with some of that data that we've set up after we've normalized a database. So we are going to be talking about SQL queries. So the first thing we need to know is we need to understand the difference between MySQL and just SQL. MySQL is the database management system. It is the application or the platform that we use to manage all of those tables that make up our database. SQL, on the other hand, is the language that we use for accessing and manipulating those databases. It's a language that actually ends up working alongside PHP, as you did in the lab last week, where you embedded some SQL queries inside of PHP so that we could display the results and the data from our database. So what on earth is SQL? Well, SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and as I mentioned, it is a language, so it's along the lines of PHP as far as it's a coding language, and it allows us to access and manipulate our databases so that we can do all kinds of things with that data. We can retrieve it, which is what we did last week, and that's what we're going to be doing again this week. It allows us to delete records. We will be getting into that next week, along with adding and editing records, all from either a command line within the MySQL platform or using these queries within PHP. It also allows us to create new tables, new databases, and there's a ton more. But remember, we are only covering this at a very surface level because we only have a few weeks to do so. If you want to learn more about the things that SQL can do, please read the chapters in your book as well as make use of sites like W3 Schools. So the first of the queries we're going to look at, and this is the one that we used last week, which is why I figured we'd start. It is probably the most common because this is how we get the data from our database. This is what we tell the system which data to get, is we use the select statement. And what we do when we use the select statement, and here is a little breakdown of the syntax, is we say select, and notice that it's in all caps. When we're using our SQL queries, it's best to keep them in all caps. I don't think they have to be, but it is common practice and best practice to do so, as it isolates and makes it easy to see where your SQL queries are located. So we do select, and then we say what column name we're looking for. For example, it could be a first name column, a last name column. This one, the example just shows column names. So this is the field names from the table where we want to select the data. Then we use the word from, and then we say which table we're looking for. In both of these cases, the column name and the table name, it is imperative that you spell the words exactly as they appear in your MySQL database. Another way that we can use the select statement is, instead of specifying an exact column name, if we want to select all of the data from that table, we can use an asterisk. And this will say select every field from that table name. So if we don't want to use all of the data that's in our select statement, if we pull up all the fields, or even if we just select certain columns that we're going to pull up, we can use a where statement. And what the where statement is think of it kind of like the if statements that we've been doing in PHP. It explains a particular condition or expression that needs to be true in order for that data to appear. In this particular example, we're saying select a particular column name from a particular table in our database where it meets a particular condition. So let's take a look at a little example. In this case, we're going to pretend that we have a table that gives us a whole bunch of states. So say this is from some sort of an address book or contact information sort of table or set of tables, and we're going to say just select the state column. We're just going to look at where people live as far as a state. So select state from the contact info table where the state equals WI. So we're going to just look for people who live in Wisconsin in this case. And so in the result, our results would only show people who met this particular expression or criteria. Another thing that we can do is called order by. Now, order by is now once you've already selected all of your data, you may have used a where statement, you might not, you might select everything from your table, then you can order it just like you can in, say, an Excel document. Whereas in Excel you use the sort or filter columns, this one you can do order by in SQL. And you can specify the column name that you want, and then you can select ascending or descending order. So in this particular example, I say select the column name from a particular table and order it by that column name in ascending order. So let's take a look at another example. In this case, I have said select asterisk. So whatever table this is, we're going to pick everything. So this would probably have their names, their street addresses, the city, state, and zip code. So we're saying select every field from the contact info table, but order it by the state in ascending order. So it's going to start at A and go all the way down to Z. So it's going to pick everything in that order, or we could do by descending, or we could say order by last name if that happens to be a field name. We're going to be going through some examples of how these things work when we work on the exercise, and then of course you'll be getting more practice when we do the lab. So that is the end of this quick video that's going to talk about it, because I'm going to talk about joins in the next video. So stay tuned.